Okay, so we've continued to work our way south down Seminary Warfield Ridge, or what we call today West Confederate Avenue. Just to give you a landmark, we're standing right now basically near the two Texas monuments, which are right behind the camera. But behind me, and what you can see, is the Bushman Farm, Big Round Top, Little Round Top. And again, almost a perfect fall morning for this. Hopefully it looks as good on camera as it does out here. I know you'd rather be looking at me, but the scenery is pretty good too. So Big Round Top, Little Round Top. Now in front of Little Round Top is Devil's Den, or what we sometimes refer to as Houck's Ridge. I think, kind of, sort of make that out through a little bit of a break in the trees over here, but the trees have kind of grown up again a little bit, and it's hard to see Devil's Den. But it's important for you guys to appreciate that I think on July 2nd, 1863, the Confederates would have been aware of that rocky Houck's Ridge, and Union troops posted on it. So what else can we see? If you want to continue panning north, again, you see the tree line along Rose's Woods and the wheat field area, but directly opposite me, we now get a view of the south end of the peach orchard. Okay, so we had our first question, wink, wink. At the last stop off camera, I said something about it being Sickles salient, and someone, I'm not going to say who, said, what's a salient? Well, a salient is a position you can hit from two sides, right? When you study the Battle of Gettysburg, you need to know what a salient and a copse is. Those are the only fields of study where you need to know those two words. But the southern end of the peach orchard, the southern end of the salient, the other side of it, is directly opposite me. So by the time Longstreet's troops were getting into position, as we said, Sickles and the Union Army Third Corps would have been in and around the peach orchard, both with infantry and artillery. So our focus today is infantry. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on the artillery just because we already have a lot of ground to cover. But sort of in a nutshell, I guess I'll summarize the artillery by saying, boom! At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:30 in the afternoon, while the Confederate infantry was moving into position, Porter Alexander, commanding a lot of the Confederate First Corps batteries, had strung around 45 to 47 artillery pieces along Warfield Ridge, even some of them coming out, extending almost as far as where we are right now, and they would have opened fire to try to drive Union forces out of the Peach Orchard area. That was phase one of the Confederate attack. That didn't go so well, because had the Confederate artillery been more successful in driving off the Union artillery, the subsequent assault by the Confederate infantry probably would have suffered less casualties, and who knows, might have been more successful, but it didn't happen. But anyways, our focus today is infantry. So as I said at the last stop, Longstreet told McLaws to stop. Longstreet moved Hood's division then further to the Confederate right over into the area that we're in right now. And again, their goal was to find the Union left, partially envelop it, and drive it in. So John Bell Hood, probably most Civil War enthusiasts are familiar with General Hood, tall, lanky, bearded, native Kentuckian, but best known for his command of Texas troops. Hood, one of Longstreet's two present division commanders on the field. The other one, by the way, George Pickett, isn't here yet, so that's why we're just talking about Hood and McLaws today. But anyways, John Bell Hood, very known as an aggressive fighter, often portrayed in things like the movie Gettysburg as being like 50, 60 years old. He was actually only 32 years old here at the Battle of Gettysburg, so still very much in the prime of his life, and not disabled yet by wounds that would unfortunately hinder Hood later in the war. So anyways, Hood's division comes out here, Texas troops, Alabama troops, and now they're going to try to envelop the Union left flank. What do you guys think of the ground out here? I mean, it looks kind of pretty on a nice fall day today, but, without a lot of the trees and that, what you probably would have seen in 1863 would have been a lot of rocks. and boulders, Hawks Ridge, as we talked about before. But also, too, what Hood realized is he could probably see Union troops stretching out to the Hawks Ridge, Devil's Den area, including by that point, probably Captain Smith's Union battery in and around Devil's Den. Hood realized that if he followed the general plan of attack, which is supposed to sweep up in that direction. Can you guys see the way I'm dramatically sweeping my hand? Is the camera making that? Okay. If the idea was to sweep up in that direction, if they went in that direction, Hood would have been potentially exposing his right and rear to Union troops in and around Devil's Den and the wheat field area. So Hood didn't like the plan of attack, and he protested it to General Longstreet several times. General Longstreet, this isn't a good idea. I don't think this is going to work. Longstreet basically said at that point, General Lee expects the attack, and you need to go. So finally, and you probably all know the exchange from the movie Gettysburg, but finally General Hood says to the effect of, well, all right, I do this under protest. Does my Confederate impression, again, quality entertainment. But anyways, says he does this under protest, and Hood begins the attack. Somewhere around 4 o'clock or so, his guys start to step off. But an interesting thing happens. As we look down here, come on over here a little bit as we pan down towards the Bushman farm. A couple things happen. First of all, as Hood's troops were probably forming in and around this slope of Warfield Ridge, and they would have had their skirmishers out in front, Union skirmishers, some U.S. sharpshooters who were positioned between the Bushman farm and the Slider farm, which is on the other side of it, and we can't quite see today because of the tree cover. But Union skirmishers down in this area, I can see one of their monuments down below. But Union skirmishers in this area would have been harassing Hood's men. So if you'd been standing here on the afternoon of July 2nd, you probably would have been taking a little bit of gunfire. So Union skirmishers are harassing Hood's guys. And what we think happens is with the skirmishers down there harassing Hood's troops, when the order is given to step off, Hood's men, Evander Law's brigade on the Confederate right flank, Law's brigade, instead of going like this, Law's brigade goes like this instead. And they start to head towards these sharpshooters and ultimately towards the rocky hills that we know today as the Round Tops. Now, this is a problem. Scott, can I borrow you for a minute? I'm going to bring in the camera crew here to demonstrate the Confederate movements a little bit. Okay, so since I just showed you guys Law's movements, can you take over as General Law? Because I'm going to be Robertson on the other side, and I want to show these guys how it all starts to go to hell for the Confederates.
Sure.
Okay, so you're Law. Okay, so you're going to start going that way. Go slowly, though, because I got to talk first. So as Law starts to go that way, I'm going to be the next brigade in line, which is going to be Robertson's brigade. Okay? So Robertson's brigade had been told basically to keep their left connected on the Emmitsburg Road. But, whoa, I've got a big gap forming now between my right and Law's left. So General Robertson had to make a snap decision. Do I go that way or do I go that way? Robertson decides that the primary thing he needs to do here is stay connected with Law, so he goes that way. And I'm going to run to catch up with Scott. All right, so now the Confederates are moving that way. All right, and now they're moving towards the Round Tops. But another thing happens probably down here by this orchard on the Bushman farm. Can you guys see the orchard down here? General Hood, as we said, an experienced, aggressive combat commander, General Hood, probably somewhere around this orchard, is wounded by a Union artillery shell that comes in, explodes over his head, and tears some shrapnel into his shoulder. And Hood, very early in the action, is going to be carried off the battlefield and is out of the fight. So again, a lot of people think the removal of General Hood early in the action is going to create a number of command and control issues for the Confederate forces. Command of Hood's division will temporarily temporarily now fall under general law, who, as we just saw, Scott's walked off on me, but as we just saw, law was all the way over in that direction. How are you going to command the whole division when you're on the right flank and all the way over there? So again, command control issues starting to break down for the Confederates as they finally step off for this attack and start to hit the Union left flank. So with that, the Confederates are in motion. We're going to go next to where the actual fighting occurs, and we're going to cover Little Round Top, Devil's Den, and the wheat field, and then hopefully the peach orchard and other stuff if we don't run out of time. So next stop is Little Round Top.